Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Warming the Bench. It's Bev and Daniela here. Bev, how are you doing today?
I'm absolutely fine. Another heat wave over here, but hey, becoming the norm. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, you know what? That's the norm. It actually was a little chillier yesterday over here, so got a little reprieve from some heat, but it's going to warm up again. So, as you said, it's kind of the thing that we're all dealing with this summer and probably for summers to come. So, no surprises here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We really hope you enjoyed our little Express episode last week. On occasion, we might be releasing those types of Express episodes if we don't have a longer topic to go over, or if there's something really, really pressing we want to jump on and talk about. We will do one of those. And again, we really are thankful for your support. Bev, what are we chatting about today? Because we've kind of got a packed agenda.
Yes, we've got a lot going on today. We've got key takeaways from the fixtures that were released last Thursday.
Yes.
Then we're going to look at the new rules on goalkeepers, time wasting.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are going to look at characters and controversies, part two.
Ooh.
Uh, and it's excellent timing, to be honest with you, Dan, because one of them is about Mark Skinner and Manchester United,
Yeah.
and the other one is Ennio Luco and Ian Wright. So some, again, we're going to keep it fair and balanced, aren't we? Although some people might listen and think, oh my gosh, it could be quite emotive or emotional. So we'll
Mhm.
try to be as balanced as we possibly can, as always, Dan, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. You know we will be, or we will try our best to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good agenda we've got going on today. So I guess we'll just jump right into it, right? WSL fixtures, initial thoughts.
Right, okay. So for me, Dan, I was
Hmm.
looking at, obviously, because I'm a Man City women supporter,
Hmm.
I was thinking, right, they've got Birmingham, Aston Villa,
Hmm.
Liverpool, and Charlton Athletic. Now,
Yeah.
technically and on paper,
Hmm.
Man City could win all of those and
Yes.
pick up 12 points and
Hmm.
really run away quite quickly if
Hmm.
the other major clubs didn't pick up their points as well. So
Hmm.
there is a potential here to do very well. However, I have to say that when they played Birmingham
Hmm.
in the FA Cup, that was a close run thing,
Yes.
but I'm asking whether it was because I do. Okay, I need to be proven on what I'm saying here. A psychologist needs to, come jump in on here. Any psychologist, by the way. Um, and I'm always of the opinion that clubs who think, oh, maybe, I think this is something that we've got in the bag, or they're viewed as a WSL2 club,
Hmm.
which is what they were, Birmingham. Is
Yeah.
this something that we can easily win? Is that playing at the back of their mind?
Hmm.
But at the same time, Birmingham have nothing to lose. They can go
Hmm.
for it as well, can't
Yeah,
they?
they can.
So, I mean, they're in the WSL too, a WSL now, so they can go for it. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, I thought there was pretty good opening fixtures for Man City. I wasn't really surprised. It seems also they've done just overall with the scheduling pretty well in terms of the opening weekends, grouping people or grouping teams, sorry, a little closer together so fans can easily get to where they need to get to, which is nice to see. Um, but yeah, I'm not super surprised. I was a little surprised that Man City's not opening the fixtures to start the season. As I told you, I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, and I think the former winners of the last season, or the current winners, sorry, should open the season. It just feels proper. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
Yes.
fine. We'll just park that. I don't know what the reasoning was there. I guess we need to put Daniela's traditionalism aside for this one. And but yeah, it's a pretty good opening few games for them. I don't honestly, I don't really foresee um, anything other than wins personally. I think maybe some of them could be a little frustrating because certain teams they might not know how to play against them yet. but nothing too troubling. Initial thoughts, though, the especially with the news that we heard today, that opening fixture, London City and Manchester United, is going to be an interesting one because who's going to be running United? What shape are they going to be in? Will London City have clicked early on in their preseason games? Yeah, a lot of questions, but it could be a spicy fixture.
Well, do you know, Danny, it was next on my list to discuss the London City Lionesses and the United.
Hmm.
Um, on paper, you would
Yeah.
expect United to win. Maybe this
Yeah.
time last year or the previous year.
Hmm.
Um, so, do you know, Dan, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because to me, London City Lionesses, they have got fabulous signings. They have.
Hmm.
Who could argue with Mappe and Patelis, and you've got
Diani.
now Yurtsna,
Yeah.
Diane. You've got
Yeah.
some amazing. We could keep going on through, couldn't we? I mean, even the
Yeah.
youngsters,
Yeah.
Godfrey, and yeah, even the youngsters are very good. They're up and
Hmm.
coming talent, but
Indeed.
I still don't know. I still
Yeah.
don't know. Sometimes you have a manager exit bounce, if I could call it that. Maybe
Hmm.
some of the players are relieved to see that happen. I don't know. Because this is the only, I don't want to go too far into this because we've got, obviously this is the characters and controversies. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it, Dan.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think it's an unknown entity, this fixture, which makes it probably exciting because we don't know, like I said, what shape United are going to be in, and we don't know what London City are going to look like. And if they will have, if they click, if London City clicks, United, this could be a loss, an opening day loss for them. I wouldn't, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, but also wouldn't surprise me if United win, and it wouldn't surprise me if a draw. Honestly, I don't think any result would shock me in this fixture because it's kind of an unknown on either side of it. But on the topic of United, just staying there, they have kind of a brutal run. They got to play London City, Arsenal, and then Chelsea for their first couple of games.
Gosh.
Yeah, not great. Yep, not so great. Arsenal have a pretty good opening couple of matches, so they'll start against Brighton. Depending on how that goes, that could be a another spicy one. Brighton have kind of been their bogey team as of late. Um, and then Crystal Palace, again, they play United, they play Chelsea, and then Man City. So actually, Arsenal kind of have a brutal run of it too. Um, Yeah, I actually really like the fixtures, Bev. There's a lot of spicy ones in there at different points in the season where you could look at and say, "Ooh, that's going to be a good time to really lock in and see what's going on," or very fixtures that could be deciding factors for a lot of things.
I picked out a couple of themes that I think are important, Dan. One is squad depth, and the other
Yeah.
one is who can form
Hmm.
a cohesive identity the quickest.
Yeah.
So for me, like squad depth, we've got, more league games now.
Hmm.
We've got domestic cups, Champions League for
Yeah.
Manchester City, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Will be
Hmm.
different scenario for Manchester City from that point of view, because they're going to have to kind of spread their squad,
Yeah.
to cover that very important fixture, aren't they? And
Yeah.
also the international windows. But for me, Man City are largely unchanged. They've still got that overall, they've still got that win inside. But not only that, Dan, they've got 4 or 5 lionesses that are playing in the team now because we've added Beth Mead and
Hmm.
Neve Giles, and they all played for England. And they're all units, really. They understand how each other play. So, is that going to be advantage for Man City as well?
It definitely could be. I think the difference you'll probably see with Man City this year is, as you mentioned, the Champions League, because I'm just looking at the fixtures now. The first round of Champions League will be around the first game, sorry, will be around the Chelsea Arsenal derby, so at the end of September, and then, or sorry, yeah, end of September, and then the following week, and then Man City play Arsenal the following week. So they're going to have to manage those big fixtures, all these three teams with Champions League in there. But also, what I was going to say about City is that can definitely help, and it does help to an extent. what I think the difference will be seen is, or where the difference will be seen is that usually the second year under a manager, you understand the manager a little bit
Yeah,
more. So from the team perspective, but also the league does too. So other teams will have now had a year exposure to Andre Yeglers and how he plays. So they have
yeah.
better ways to set up against them too. So you might see previously it was kind of an unknown entity, right? It's like, ooh, what's Yeglers going to do? And it was kind of like Sonia in her first year. Nobody really knew what to expect, right? Second year, you started to see people, oh yeah, that's what she does. Even though she gave us Bon Pastor bingo all last season, it was very you understood a little bit more how to set up and play against managers in their second year because they're not going to completely change the way that they play. That's the way that he plays, right? It was very foreign to a lot of people at first, but now it's, oh, okay, well, we know this. How do we now play better against them? So you might see tighter fixtures, whereas last year Man City would have been completely dominating in games. You might see them a little bit tighter than they would have been.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Hmm.
It's almost like a bounce for them, isn't it? But then
Yeah,
it starts to produce a template, and others compare, from other clubs
exactly.
compare that and say, "Ah, yeah, but I know they like to play
Do this.
attacking,
Hmm.
attacking football, high possession attacking football. So therefore, we need to do this, and this in order to counteract what they're doing." So there
Yeah.
is that, there's a bit of an exposure or vulnerability there, I would argue.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, definitely. But overall, I think the fixtures are pretty fun. It's good to see some different times rolling in as well. I know the 12 o'clock kickoff for
Yes.
all of them were not people were not happy about that. So it's nice to see some difference. Friday night fixtures, Saturday fixtures, Sunday. They have the Sunday 6 p.m. or yeah 6 p.m. slot for some of them in a couple of game weeks. So that's good and nice to see as well. Overall, I think it's going to be a really good season, Bev.
I think so. I think it's fantastic. Dan, shall we move on to the goalkeepers and time wasting and the new rule that's coming out?
Yes, we absolutely can. Do you want to kick us off with that one?
Okay, now I'm not sure this is as straightforward as it
Yeah,
appears
it's
to be.
not.
It's not, is it? Now,
No.
there's something a little bit, there's something clearish, but even then I can go into a nuanced state. So, picture this. Back last year, before the Euros, it may have even been the year before that. Um, Wales and the Republic of Ireland were playing. It's the second leg, okay, and it's
Hmm.
a really spicy game. It's a fantastic fixture.
Yeah.
Katie McCabe's got her ass out as usual. She wants the game moving forward, and
Yeah.
and from their point of view, they're trying to catch up with Wales as they score late into the match a second goal. That's Wales. And then all of a sudden, the goalkeeper goes down. The camera pans around to the fans, and you could see the look on the Republic of Ireland's fans' faces. Get up! Come on, we want the. So from Wales' point of view, great. The
Hmm.
goalkeeper goes down. The
Hmm.
game slows down completely. They have time to go over to their manager and have a chat and
Yeah.
an update on their tactics and strategy, whereas the Republic of Ireland are absolutely spitting feathers.
Hmm.
But there's become a bit of a pattern, Dan. This is starting to happen in most games now. That down they go, and you think, oh gosh, here we go.
Hmm.
This is the club that are winning, and obviously they want to preserve
Yeah.
their protect their win. But on the other hand, we want entertainment and we want the flow of the game to keep going. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, completely. Tactical timeouts have become a problem. You know who was a big fan of tactical timeouts? One Miss Emma Hayes. And Ann
Yes.
Katrin still does it if you watch the NWSL. Everyone, she is a Chelsea through and through, that one there. Emma was the queen of tactical timeouts, and nothing drove Chelsea fans more annoyed, drove them more crazy, excuse me, than when the goalkeeper went down. And you know who hates them? Sonia Bonpastor. So if you've noticed the downtick in Chelsea goalkeepers doing that, it's because their manager has told them, do not freaking do that. Um, no, seriously, she hates it. She's bemoaned it so many times. But it has become a problem. And you can, and you notice it right away, right? You can almost tell the difference between when a goalkeeper's actually hurt and when you know that they need to just take that moment because their team is maybe under the cosh a little bit and they need that moment to just settle themselves or to get some further information. So this rule is now being put into place to hopefully limit the amount of times that that is being done, and hopefully only use a goalkeeper down situation when it's actually needed, aka in the case of a legitimate injury to a goalkeeper, which of course we need to stop, right? Do you want me to go through how this rule is apparently going to work?
Yeah, go for
Because
it.
I have it right in front of me. So if the play is stopped because the goalkeeper needs an on-field medical treatment, one outfield player from the goalkeeper's team must leave the field. So you'll notice in games right now, when you have an injury, the player has to go off. The goalkeepers don't usually go off, but somebody from the team is now going to have to go off, right? So then the team has 10 seconds to nominate which outfield player is going to leave. And if they do not choose, the captain will be the player who leaves. So the captain will become the automatic one. That player has to remain off the field for at least 1 minute after play restarts before being allowed back on. And again, this is being introduced to avoid all of the time wasting, breaking the opponent's momentums, and trying to get that tactical information. And there are exceptions, excuse me, to the rule. So if there's a collision involving the goalkeeper, if there's a foul on the goalkeeper, if there's bleeding or any other injuries requiring medical treatment, or any other serious medical issues that might happen, and this trial is just going to be monitored. So I guess they're going to see how it goes and see if it actually works and reduces that time wasting problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to have covered a lot of different scenarios there. But I
Hmm.
will say that goalkeepers are not the only ones that slow the pace of the game,
Hmm.
because you have to look at the holding midfielder. That is their job. They are holding the ball literally,
Yeah.
to, recalibrate, reset, and off they go again. But that takes seconds.
Hmm.
Um, Wide players, there are set pieces in corners, all these things slow the game down. So it
Hmm.
don't just come down to the goalie. Do you know what I mean? Em?
Correct.
So yeah. And sometimes there are legitimate reasons that the
Hmm.
goalie has to stop the game,
Hmm.
especially if there's a head injury, and that, I quite
Hmm.
understand they have to stop the game if there is a head injury.
For sure. Yeah, there's different ways, and obviously, but those are also in-game things
Mm,
and a little less obvious, right? There's ways to play that you can slow games down, the way you set up, the way you kind of maybe in a midfield press, like all of these sorts of things, right? Or
yeah.
midfield block, I should say. If you're defending, those sort of things. This was really becoming a problem because everyone seemed to have picked up on doing it and was like, oh, let's just follow everybody what they're doing and let's get some more information. So
Yeah.
hopefully it stops it. We'll see what happens. It's trial and error, right? We have to try things out in order to see if they work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's
Dan,
go
shall we
for it.
move over to our characters and
Characters. You know
controversies?
what? Why not? Let's move on over to them. We always love a character and we love a controversy. Sometimes.
Well, very unfortunately, it is fallen at our feet. That sounds dreadful, but I
Hmm.
mean, we did pick this anyway, didn't we? Because you did a reel, and then there
Hmm.
were questions based on your reel, and there were questions before you did your reel about
Hmm.
Manchester United and the
Yeah.
fact there wasn't a lot of business going on there.
Hmm.
Kind of with today's news that Mark Skinner and Man U have mutually decided that it's best to part ways.
Yeah.
You wonder if there is some kind of link with that, Dan? Why there
Yeah.
wasn't more signings? But even if that's the case, we're not far from a new season. Is a little bit worrying, and you
Mm.
can understand the worry of the supporters, because Man U, women's team that is, do
Hmm.
have quite a big following, Dan.
Yeah. They do. Manchester United is a massive club. And so the reason we decided to pick Manchester United, I'm going to say it as a whole, as a club, as the character in the controversy, is because of this reason. So, a lot of people might not be, if they're new football fans, if you are new football fans, excuse me, you might not be fully aware of how far this issue has stretched back. So, just a little brief history. Since the club became a club in 2018 under their first manager, which was Casey Stoney, from those days, so that's 8 years ago for anyone who's keeping track, there have been constant issues in terms of support and investment. Casey Stoney was constantly rallying against this. It's part of the reason why she left. Um, because she was not supported, the team was not supported. There's only so many times you can say, we need more of this, we need more here, this needs to be a priority, all of these sorts of things. And then Manchester United Club is owned by a gentleman. I'm not even, actually, no, he's not a gentleman, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And he, over the last few years, has made several comments outwardly that the women's team is not a priority. He only sees women's football as a potential future opportunity. There were issues where the United women's team had to move out into porta cabins for their training facilities. Very poor treatment. He didn't know who Maya Letizier was, or sorry, who Katie Zellum was. That there's just so many things that have gone on that suggest that this is really not a priority for this team in any way, shape, or form. And Mark Skinner has become a little bit more vocal in, I would say, the last year and a half that they need more backing and they need more support. And parking his issues aside as a manager, because there's been problems with him specifically in terms of his personnel management and his maybe tactical ways are not the greatest. it it's really easy to see how in the middle it could be yes, maybe he should be moving on, but also he has a point because this is not a well supported team in any way, shape, or form. We're talking about a team of women who were referred to as the girls by their owner, who did not bother to show up when they won the FA Cup in 2 years ago. You know, there's all of these things that suggest this is not a priority on the surface, and then you have comments outwardly like that, coupled with the lack of business that they've done over the last few windows. They've done decent business last summer and maybe in the January window, but I think this summer you can tell that there's some sort of a shift going on with the lack of signings, with letting Millie Turner and Lisa Nelson and especially Melvia Millard go without replacing any of these players. Um, Bev, it's really interesting because United is such a huge team. Like, I think you can go anywhere in the world and say Manchester United, and people will know what you're talking about. And they really should be leading the charge or one of the leaders in terms of women's football in England, but also in the world because of their global brand. And they're not because of the forces working against them.
Well, the way you've put that, Dan, it's very difficult to argue against what you've said because when I originally saw the Ratcliffe saying it's an opportunity, I thought, well, to be fair,
Hmm.
from his point of view and from a business point of view, I can see where he was going with that. It is an opportunity
Hmm.
because at the moment they are kind of under the umbrella of the men's game, aren't they? Or
Yes.
the men's team, I should say.
Hmm.
And I understand what he means by putting the men's team as priority because, after all, they've got to bring in the money, the revenue, haven't they? And then
Yeah.
from that, they've then been supporting the women's team.
Hmm.
It's one of those, and as you've said, Manchester United is a very well known team. It is. Everybody in the world knows Man United, and
Yeah.
lots of people think, have got the shirts and things like that.
Mm.
You could go over to Brazil and, yeah, we know Manchester
Yeah.
United. You could go over to Timbuktu and everybody knows United. And do you know what I
Yep.
mean? But it
Yep.
is very, very well known. So you kind of think, well, hang on a minute, Arsenal and Chelsea, they've invested, they're still under the umbrella of the men's club, but
Hmm.
they've allowed, they've enabled the women's teams to grow, haven't they? And
Yes.
because of that, they've got substantial. they've got substantial support, like fans and where they play, like the Emirates and Stamford Bridge is mooted now, or
Mhm.
King's Meadow is always well um, filled up, isn't it? So it's one of those things again where the rocket has
Mhm.
launched and we've still
Yeah.
got those wobbly. It's a classic prime example, I think,
Mhm.
where a team is just not thinking, right, a club is just not thinking, well, what do we do then? I think
Yeah.
they're scratching their heads. But also, Dan, I want to be fair here because I want to be fair to Mark Skinner because some
Mhm.
people are very critical of him.
Mhm.
I think that all things considered, I mean, I don't know what's gone on in the boardroom. I don't know what's gone on in the changing room. But
Mhm.
he, to me, has done a very good job. He had got them to the Champions League last year and they did quite well,
Mhm.
considering. And they
Yeah.
also won the FA Cup a couple of years
Mhm.
ago, which was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Mhm.
So I think he's done well, but you wonder if it's time for him to have moved on
Yeah.
for his sake, let alone anything else.
Agree. Yeah, I think it's one of those, it's two things can be true, right? Like
Yes.
in terms of him as well, he did do a great job. And I also, there's a side of me that also wonders who else would have done, who would have taken that job under these circumstances as well, had they let him go maybe 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a little, it might look like a shiny thing from the outside, but you realize, I'm just looking it up right now. I mean, United's budget and operating wages are less than half of that of Arsenal and Chelsea.
Oh,
That's
dear
not a lot
God.
of money to be operating with, right? And
No.
that's a hard sell to people, right? Like you want to see a project when you're getting a new job, you want someone to come in and look at, oh, we're building something here, not we're in this one place and we're not moving from it, basically, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of hard. I wonder if there was a level of that too. It's they kept him in role or he stayed in role because he felt he could move the needle better from the inside. There's a lot of things, and like Mark Skinner's not without his criticism, but he needs to be given his flowers in some way as well, because like you said, there was a lot that he did with limited and having to speak out against his bosses basically for not supporting him. Much good that that did, apparently, because it's clearly not doing well for him. But maybe it was time to move on. Unfortunately, now I go back to that same thought: who's going to fill this job with the limited resources that are there? To be
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
who the front runners are, Dan. Who
Yeah.
have you got in mind? Who do you think will?
I don't know, because now that I know what their budget is actually like, it's hard. It's a hard sell. I would think maybe somebody locally. I wonder if they have a crack at the former LCL manager, Jocelyn Procheur, would be an interesting shout. He did a pretty good job at LCL. Again, but he was also operating with a different budget, so I don't know what that looks like for him. If they were more supported, like an Arsenal or Chelsea, I could see them having a crack at like an Alex Strauss. He was the former Bayern Munich manager. He went over to the NWSL. It
Yes.
di- it didn't work for him over there, but um, oh,
Yeah.
we've got a guest, guys.
Which,
Um, yeah, it didn't.
oh, shush. Come on.
We've got some guests on the podcast today, everyone. Please excuse them.
Right.
Oh
The
my
dog is
goodness.
having a view, is all I can.
Yeah, Alex Strauss is probably the one that I was thinking of, but honestly, I don't know if they would be able to get someone like that with whatever they're proposing now. So I'm not sure. I think it's interesting to be seen, but they don't have much time because the season starts in a month. So
Yeah,
yeah.
they don't at all. But given what you've said, though, Dan, I
Hmm.
mean, all right, there isn't much time, and they're not perhaps going to get somebody that they would like.
Hmm.
But we can still, tap into this. Well, it's Man United, and Man
Yeah,
United
the
speaks
brand.
for itself. It's
Hmm.
a big, big club. And is there somebody out there, maybe that's just started their career,
Hmm.
is looking for I mean, it's still a fantastic opportunity.
Of
That
course.
I suppose it depends on the individual, Dan, and
Hmm.
then weighing everything up.
Yeah,
Looking at it, maybe I can do it for a short term. It starts me off. We know that there isn't quite the support that the other women's teams have, but that's a relative thing. Because
Hmm.
you can't say that all the women's teams are supported in the clubs are supported in the same way. They're not.
They're
It's
not.
a relative thing.
Yeah, they're not. And just to Emma Sanders is reporting that part of their new structure, their new plan at United, they want someone who's really good with developing youth talent. So it looks like they're going to tap into their academy. So perhaps if that's something somebody really likes to do, it could be a draw for them as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about the academy. Well,
Hmm.
they're going to have coaches that are like they're under 21s, they're under 23s, they're under 17s and the like, aren't they?
Hmm. They
Surely.
will, yeah. I wonder if they have a look at that if whoever their
Mm.
candidates are that are lined up, apparently there are candidates. I'm not sure. There was no mention of
Oh,
who it was, but apparently there are people in mind and they've done background checks already. This is the reporting. So just a shout out to Emma Sanders. She's my go-to for everything.
yeah.
She knows all the tea. And yeah, there's so they could swiftly make a decision. If any of those candidates fall through, maybe they do look to someone on an interim basis while they line up somebody else in the background, or just maybe have let them have a crack at it and go, why not see what happens, right?
Absolutely. I can't believe that the club would have got to this point, let Mark Skinner go
Hmm. And
and
not
not
have,
have somebody in mind. I can't believe that would be the case.
yeah.
Surely not.
No, no, it sounds like they have people in mind and they've done some back work to
Background
ensure
checks.
they can, yeah, background
Yeah.
checks and stuff to see that they can quickly slide someone in. So at least that's done. So it's
Yeah.
not a terrible situation. It's just, it's very disruptive to players. They're already in preseason. All
Mm,
of that's kind of going on. You have to wonder what that effect has. Even if the players, some of them wanted him to go, it is at this
mm.
point right now, again, kind of, like I said, a disrupting thing. But it happens. Unfortunately, that's a business. It's the business of the football that we kind of don't love all the time, but it happens, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of the fans, it seems to be a bit split. You've got
Yeah.
those, hang on a minute, I think he's done a really good job given the constraints that he have. And the
Mhm.
others were, oh no, get rid of him, Skinner out. I mean, that Skinner out has been going around for a couple of years, to be honest with you.
It
But
has.
there's also the saying, be careful what you wish for. And sometimes a change is as good as a rest. So it depends on your perspective, Dan, doesn't it?
It really does. It depends. Yeah. And you know what? Change is not always a bad thing. Maybe it might take a little bit of time to produce results, but it's not always a bad thing. And, maybe Mark Skinner, not maybe, I know he will get a job. He will be probably hotly sought after. And there'll
Yeah.
be quite a few clubs that could use a good coach to come in.
Yeah, yeah, he will be highly sought after.
Mhm. Absolutely. So more to come on Manchester United. Let's watch the space and see what happens.
Okie dokie. Shall we move on to our next one then, which is the Enialuco
Hmm.
and Ian Wright.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
again, I kind of chose this one because it's it's about where the woman's game is again. Going back to the scales, Dan.
Hmm.
Um, Ian Wright has been a strong advocate of the women's game when
Yeah,
it wasn't popular for a
it's true.
long time.
Hmm.
And, he's put his hand in his pocket and he's, given
Yes.
money to operations for other players. And as I said, he's been a strong advocate.
Hmm.
You've got that. Then you've got Eni Aluko, which was talking on a podcast for the BBC
Hmm.
with Claire McConnelly.
Hmm.
I believe that was the right one. And essentially, they started on the foot of talking about structures
Yeah.
and infrastructures and inequalities
Rev, I lost
and
you again.
various things that we've discussed over many podcasts.
Hmm.
And you've got to wonder, um, I've listened to the interview or the podcast a number of times recently, and I did before.
Hmm.
And Enya Luco doesn't specifically grab on to Ian Wright. That was
Hmm.
something that was raised by Claire
Y-
McConnelly in the
yes.
BBC.
Hmm.
It wasn't Enya Luco that mentioned it, it was the BBC. I
Hmm.
have to say, It was very clever interviewing techniques being used.
It was
The
leading.
Yes, it was. It was very leading. Very unfortunately for Annie, she
Hmm.
swa- she swallowed it, and
Yeah.
she went down a rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Um, but I did hear her keep saying, well, not specifically. Well, um, but it was such a shame, Dan, because she was talking about very important, very legitimate things that are impacting and are affecting the women's game. And it was so important. So she went from structures and all the rest of it, as I've said, to being led to talking about somebody very specifically, very unfortunately, Ian Wright.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Thoughts? And then we obviously got the backlash.
Yeah, so when I first saw it, and I think I was kind of like how Annie got led. I got led by headlines because the headline was "This is what she said," and I was like, "Oh, that's not very nice." That was my initial thought. Without reading the article or listening to the actual podcast, I said that's kind of a weird. And I just thought it was odd because I know that they're actually friends or they were friends. So I thought that was a very strange thing to have come out of her mouth, right? Um, and then I listened to it, and again, I said, "Oh, she was baited into this conversation."
Yeah.
And on the surface, what ended up happening was, like you said, a very important conversation got almost shifted to the side, and it became this, she doesn't like him, or they're fighting, or whatever the situation is between them. When if you took one step back as a critical thinker, you could say, okay, this person was led into this conversation. Perhaps she shouldn't have taken the bait. It happens to everybody. Let's be serious, right?
Mm,
And on its heels, a really important conversation that needs to be had because she was not wrong in what she said. She was
yeah.
completely right. It's unfortunate that this ended up spinning into naming this person, and this person got dragged into it when even the person who was interviewing her using Ian Wright in that context was just wrong of her to do, given his history in the women's game to begin with. Like that was not the right person to be name dropping into that scenario because it didn't make sense on the surface of it. And then it completely negated anything Annie said because it became this big controversy between, oh, these two people are fighting, when in reality it should have been about there are finite number of opportunities for women in women's football. And those opportunities should be more geared towards female pundits, coaches, all of the above, all whatever opportunity it is, right? Especially in punditry and in media. And what Annie was just trying to get at was there needs to be an understanding that if other men in this space are using this as a stepping stone, that limits the opportunities for women who genuinely want to stay and be and grow in this space. And that
Yes.
got lost.
I totally agree with you. To be quite frank with you, I'm not, I think it was really quite irresponsible of the
Hmm.
BBC. I really do.
100%. Yeah.
Especially, especially considering that the BBC says it's fair. You know what I mean? And it's fair, and TV license payers look for fairness and um, an equal shot at at discussions and debate and things like that. Be fair here. And for me, I think, like you, she was baited and she went down a rabbit hole. I really
Yeah.
do. But for me, I came away feeling, after listening to the interview or the podcast, I felt nobody gained anything from it. I don't think Enya
No.
Luca gained anything from it. I don't think the BBC gained anything from it. In fact, they should have been under scrutiny a lot more. And as a TV license payer, I would want them to be scrutinised much more. Okay, for that. I
Correct.
think it was
Correct.
irresponsible. Ian Wright came out of it poorly.
Yeah.
Nobody won. There were no winners here, Dan. None at
No,
all.
there wasn't. And the scrutiny heavily fell on Annie Luco, and she
Yes.
was terribly treated. And the amount of comments and racism and stuff that was levied at her was quite disturbing. From some of the stuff I saw, it was very misogynistic in nature as well. But also fans were so quick to jump down her throat without taking a step back and realizing what she was actually trying to say, and not being able to distinguish the fact that this was a massive fail, as you said, on the BBC to put this out there. Because it was, if you listen to the actual podcast, you're really surprised at how the conversation shifts there. Because it's not a bad conversation to be having. It was immediately that name dropping, and it's almost like she didn't know how to address it, and she was just, oh, yeah, well, I guess, kind of really confused that that individual even listed his name in that conversation. That's what I took from it. She was surprised by that. And
I think
unfortunately,
so.
they used
Yeah.
it, yeah, because that's probably not who she was thinking of when she was making those points
I
about
didn't
men
think
in
so.
the women's space. Yeah, at all.
I didn't think so
Hmm.
at all from listening
Yeah,
to it. And I've listened to it now about 4 or 5 times, to be quite honest with you. The main point was about equal opportunities, opportunities being available.
correct.
Are we getting to the point now, women do, if they have, if they have the merit and they are good at their jobs,
Yeah,
women are looking for not just to be players, but also opportunities, job opportunities such as coaching, being managers, being pundits, journalists in with the women's game, um, occupational therapists, occupational health, physiotherapists within the women's game. It's creating pathways, and that's what she was on about,
hmm,
creating pathways. And it's like, the women's game is a pond compared to the men's game, which is an ocean. And there are plenty
yeah,
of men swimming around there. And the opportunities for women aren't if it's a pond, the size of a pond. Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
But the question I also want to ask Dan is that, I link this to Mary Earps.
Mm.
And is it that women out in public, when they're in a public domain, such as she is, and she's been a pundit, and she's also been an ex women's football player,
Hmm.
are they subjected to so much more scrutiny and held to higher levels of account than men?
Yes, period. Yes. There's no chance that if I don't know, I'm just gonna take it. David Beckham said something about, I don't know, a broadcaster. Oh, I understand, but maybe we should limit. Everyone would look at him and say, "Oh, what a brilliant idea."
Yes.
And or even if he was, baited into the conversation. Let's use the exact same scenario. He was baited into, and he said something, and you realize that's not actually what he was saying. He had a point in his argument or whatever it might be. There's no chance he would actually be scrutinized that heavily because of the position that we need to, everything that women are doing or saying or whatever it is under so much more of a microscope. And God forbid they have an opinion that is not falling in line with everyone else's kind of view. Even though everyone else's view is, yes, we have to grow the women's game and yes, we need to have opportunities. The minute that gets said in a way that is slightly different, and I mean slightly, very slightly different, it's, oh, what do you mean? It's the same argument.
Absolutely.
It's the same argument with the money that we spoke about. People are, cracking the shit, excuse my language, over Michelle Kang. And it's
Mm,
like, she's not doing anything anyone else is not doing, by the way, men
mm,
especially in football.
mm,
But it comes under so much heavier scrutiny. It's every single thing. It's not just
mm.
limited to broadcasting. It's not just limited to footballers. It's everywhere. And it's the exact same attitude and mentality that is levied at women is completely different.
Dan, I'm not saying that we don't need men. I am
No, of
not
course we do.
saying that. We,
Yeah.
we, we need advocates. We need
Hmm.
people to fly the flag for the women's game. Of course we do.
Yes.
But not to the extent that you're eternally grateful. I think there's a fine line.
Mhm. I agree. You know what it reminds me of? It's the footballers when the attitude used to be to the women, oh, just be grateful you have the opportunity.
Yes.
That's what it
Yes.
reminds me of. I'm not going to be grateful for male support. I'm thankful for it. Thank you very much. But I'm
Yes.
not going to sit here and overly praise a man for the bare minimum of what they
Absolutely,
should be
Dan,
doing.
because what does grateful translate to? again, to
Yeah,
me, it
yeah,
you see, I mean, Leah Williams have said Williamson has said this, that the women's game and what happens in the women's game, the bullying, the misogynism, the criticism, the lack of funding, the inequality, and on and on and on, is a reflection of society, is a microcosm of society. And
exactly.
we also go into archetypes. It's always the woman that has to be grateful for crumbs, Dan.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's like, oh, just be thankful you're here, that
Yeah.
that you get the chance to do this, or whatever it might be. So as you said, we're not saying no, we're not happy or, thank you so much, or thankful for that there are male allies and support. I would actually look at Ian Wright and say that's the baseline of your support. Like that's how it should look
Mm,
from
mm.
everybody, and then you build upon that. That's how I see it because this is someone who, like you said, I saw a video of him from like 25 years ago at a women's game, and there was like five other people there with him. So you know that that's a genuine support. It wasn't just for cameras or whatever it might be, right? And someone who's spoken about the women's game being so far behind that they actually should be owed reparations, for example. I've never heard that come out of many men's mouths. I don't even hear that from a lot of women, to be quite honest with you. So you know that it's there. So that if I look at someone, I'm like, oh, that should be a little bit of a blueprint of the baseline level support for men in the women's game. And then, like I said, you build upon it. That makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely do. But I think we're getting to a point where we need, if we're going to take some positives out of what happened as a
Hmm.
result of that podcast, is examining where we are then. Do
Yeah.
we do we kind of say, like the men's World Cup, you know,
Hmm.
women were involved, that's fantastic, but you
Yes.
knew that the men were the main pundits. You knew that the men were the main pundits. You only have to look at what happened to Emma Hayes
Hmm.
to know that as well. Do you know what I mean, Em?
Exactly.
Um, but we do, they were involved, and personally, I thought it was a nice balance, personally.
Yes.
And, it could be that we have Ian Wright pitch
Hmm.
side, but the women are in the studio. But I do
Yes.
think that we need to examine this going forward, because what Enya Luco was talking about, yes, it wasn't just about structures and infrastructures and equality and all the rest of it. It was about saying, please, let's not go down the same route as the men's game. We don't want a men's template. We want our own space.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I think it raised, like you said, a broader issue of can prominent male allies help grow the sport? Yes, they can, and we hope that they continue to help us grow the sport, right? But
Mm.
also limit their opportunities in a way that is beneficial and not because it's like, oh, we don't want men here. That's not the thing. It's thank you for being an ally and thank you for helping, but also acknowledging the fact that while in part of their allyship is also ensuring that they're not taking up spaces that they don't need to be taking up as well.
I absolutely agree with you. But you see, for me now, what has happened, and I was in preparation for this podcast, I looked up some allies towards Enya Luco, and there were a couple of guys talking on Talk Sport to the extent they were saying, "Do you know what? I feel really uncomfortable."
Hmm.
Um, because it seems to me everything she do is taken apart, Dan. Now, this
Everything.
is not about criticism anymore. This is about bullying.
Hmm. Everything she says seems to wind people up, and they are very, very harsh on her for it.
Mm. Well, the guy on Talk Sport, he said, it's almost like they've cornered her and they are starting to rip her apart. And he said, I just don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. And here you go. Here you see talk sport pundits are like, this has probably been blown way too out of proportion in terms of the treatment of her and the
Mm.
backlash towards it. And I bet
Mm.
you those individuals sound like they have a fairly critical mind. And if you would ask them the same question, they would probably think, oh, she has a point in regards to
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I don't ever think, I agree with you. And like I said, having listened to the podcast many times now, I don't ever think that she intended to
No.
talk about or personalize it
Hmm.
towards Ian Wright. I really
No.
don't.
She was
And I
speaking in
think she
general.
was. I think she was quite shocked. I can tell by the intonation in her voice listening to the podcast. I think she was quite taken aback by that being mooted, but I think it was heavily loaded. I think
Yeah,
it was meant to take her in that direction.
exactly. And unfortunately, she fell victim to it, and she's not the only one who's fallen victim to tactics used to guide you in a direction where
Mm,
you say something that is intended to solicit such a response in the way that it did. And,
mm,
Bev, what I find a little bit more disturbing is the amount of journalists as well, women's football or media people who immediately jumped on the let me crap all over any train.
mm.
Because I recall as soon as they probably did what I did, they saw the headlines, they were like, well, what the heck is this about? And as a journalist, that is extremely poor of you because I saw some things, oh, you should never criticize this, blah, blah. Some of them definitely, after a couple of days, maybe listened to the podcast and said, ooh, let me backtrack because I understand what she was trying to say. But to immediately do that, you're further driving the narrative that the BBC was doing as well. And that's very irresponsible from media in general.
Well, ultimately, the person that, Claire McConnell, the person that
Mhm.
interviewed her is a journalist, I take it. So,
Yeah,
you have ethical considerations down in fairness and all the rest of it, don't you?
of course. Of course you
Mm.
do. And yeah, it was very disturbing. And I know everyone listening, this took place a while ago, but we didn't have a podcast a while ago. So now we're talking about it. But also for those who are not um, football fans and want to catch up on certain things that have been headlines, this is a good barometer for you to use to know to see what you know, what you don't know, and to build your understanding of these are the types of conversations and the types of topics that happen or things that happen within women's football that drive a lot of narratives or that drive a lot of deeper conversations or changes here or these sort of things. So it's really good for anyone, really, if you are a fan or if you're a new fan.
Absolutely, and I know when we looked at Mary Earps and when we looked at Chloe Kelly, well, that was part one of our characters and controversies. We went
Mhm,
through that. Mary Earps has got a lot going for her. She's an ambassador. She did a lot for goalkeepers. She's a fantastic goalkeeper now with the London City Lionesses. Lots of young girls look up to her. The same with Chloe Kelly. Now, you can argue the same about Enia Luco. She is a very bright and intelligent woman. She is a
mhm.
qualified lawyer. She is
Yes.
a yeah, she is an advocate of equality. She is working on 7 gay men in the
Mhm.
men's game,
Yes.
supporting them and coming out if they wish to. But
Oh,
she's helping Justin Fashionew's niece put
mhm.
together the structures and the support systems there for that to happen, should they wish that to happen. So please, let's look at her in a well-rounded, holistic view, please.
Exactly. That
Oh,
is a
and
very
every woman in the women's game, because we
ex-
do get undue. Yeah,
exactly. And I also I think people forget that women are people and people have multifaceted, right? So there's a lot of great things about all of us, and yes, we have our flaws too. That's normal. It
yeah.
happens. Everyone does.
Yeah, and I will, I just to finish, Ian Wright is,
Mhm.
let's look at him holistically, but he is not the second coming of Messiah either.
Exactly. And as I said, it's a great template to look at that person and say, wow, that should be the type of allyship that we want to see in the women's game. But that person is also not without their flaws. And again, that person should and could have looked at what had occurred or listened to it and taken it a little differently as well. Everyone is multifaceted. We all have our
Mm,
ways of doing things, and that's okay. Everyone, sometimes something happens and you take something the wrong way or you don't listen at first, whatever it is. That's called being a human being too. It happens,
yes.
it
Yeah,
it happens.
yeah. So I think this is like a natural way to round off now, Dan, don't you? I've said what I've wanted to say, some important things.
I think it is too. Actually, we wanted to bring back our hot takes. Can I bring back one little small hot take for this
Go
episode?
for it. Go for it.
North America, give me WAFCON. I still can't find it. There's my hot take. Actually, not even a hot take. It's just my annoyance take today. Give me WAFCON without having to search
Oh,
high and dry for it, okay?
I think it's what you
There it
call a
is.
ball. It's what you call a balls up, Dan, isn't it?
It really is. Honestly. My goodness. This should not be
Yeah,
this hard.
no,
So
and I
there's
think
that.
this is another, like sticking to the point of what Annie said, we need to move
Hmm.
forward with a different template. Let's go forward with the women's game in their own
Yeah,
light. And just
exactly.
finish, before I finish,
Mhm.
we've got a person called Jay Thompson, who is talking
Mhm.
to us about Arsenal on Friday, but
Yes,
the podcast comes out on Monday. Is that right, Dan?
that's correct. Yeah. So it'll be released. This episode is going to drop tomorrow. So you'll be listening to it on Tuesday, August the 4th. And then the episode with Jay will drop on August 10th.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Brilliant.
Yeah,
I think that does us for today, Dan. Thank you ever
it
so
really,
much.
it really does. Thank you so much, Bev. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. And of course, drop us your thoughts. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.